Hey, Jesse, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Breezy.
How are you doing?
It's another day in Midland, so I can't complain. The weather's a little wanky, but
Isn't it? I think we don't get used to weather like that because it doesn't happen very often, but you got to be thankful for the rain.
yes. I can deal without the fog though. I was
Absolutely.
driving from Artesia to Carlsbad to Midland yesterday,
Ooh.
and when it was all coming in, and when the visibility is not great, it was a little sketchy, but glad to be here. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's one of the most dangerous parts of anybody working in the Permian Basin
the
is
roads.
is are the roads,
Hmm.
and then you add in something like thick, heavy fog like that. It can get pretty dangerous, and
Yes, for
you've
sure.
just got to be totally alert the entire time, even more so than usual.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, that's great. So, I'm glad to have you on today. We met at the oil show back in
Yes.
October, and I got to learn a little bit about what you guys do at Blackline, and really been looking forward to hearing more about it, and kind of where you guys are at, and the innovations that you have in your company that seem to be really effective in keeping people safer.
Absolutely, yeah. It was great meeting at the oil show. That was a great show.
It was.
A lot of really great interactions with potential and existing customers. But yeah, I mean, Blackline. Where do I start? I started with Blackline. April will be 3 years ago, and I came from Granger, the world of Granger. I was there over a decade, and I sold in the government sector and the healthcare sector, and then decided to trade in the three-piece suit and get some steel toes and a hard hat and a vest and move to Lubbock, Texas from Colorado.
Huge
I know.
transition.
And so, you know, um, through some things going on, Blackline came calling and found me, and they couldn't be happier. Great company, innovative company, and just representing a product that is truly saving lives, helping people get home to their families at the end of the day. It's just impactful, and it makes my job so much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the most important thing for oil field families because you always have that in the back of your mind anything can happen and things do happen. And to be able to represent that product and know that it's making that much of a
Mm.
difference. And yeah, like I can see where the rewards are and with Blackline being such a great company and the extent that they've gone to innovate. It seems like it's really setting the bar and we're moving in a really great direction with safety and not just the afterthought of safety or the tailgate meetings in the morning telling you to be safe, which are
Hmm.
always important.
Yeah.
You want to touch base, but people that work alone on location or you're really far out that, especially with the, foreign lines and the, all the different aspects of the Permian Basin that you never know what you're going to run into.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's that could be a topic all on its own because I've definitely been on locations and facilities where we get close to a line, or you didn't know it was there. So of course hydrovacing became essential, and that's part of it now. You can't just start digging.
No.
You have to do your one calls and you have to make sure that the lines are exposed or that they're there. And even when lines get buried and they put in the caution tape a couple feet up. I don't know what the proximity is anymore, but so if someone did start digging, there's a little bit of a safety measure
Hmm.
in place. So a lot of what we've done, we've come a long way in the Permian Basin with trying to take those measures. But you guys are really taking it to the next level with
Yeah.
these monitors.
One of the things you mentioned is working alone and that aspect of the business. And the Blackline, it started with Lona Mobile and working with just the GPS technology on those people that are by themselves. And it could be oil and gas, it can be a meter reader out there working for an energy company, it can be somebody walking solar fields, things like that. Just being alone in the workplace, there's a lot of risks involved in that, right? And so, when it comes to connected safety, why not gas detection with connected safety? You have, Bluetooth toasters out there. You have your iPhone that will measure your heart rate. My watch is telling me to stand up right now.
Right.
I don't know why, because I've been standing. But you have all these different things that have the IoT Internet of Things, incorporated in them. And so why not gas detection? And that's kind of what's been so fulfilling and fun about Blackline is just adding that layer of safety or several layers of safety into the product line. In the past, somebody gets hit with H2S gas wearing a different device. They might know about it, right? It's a beep and flash. You'll know about it, but if nobody's around you, who else is going to know? What if you pass out? Nobody knows where you're at. Nobody knows what you got hit with. But with what Blackline's doing, not only will we know that you got hit because of the layers of safety involved in the product, we're going to know where you're at, the time it happened, the concentration of the gas, and that does so many different things. Number one, we can turn, a recovery into a rescue. That's paramount, right? Making sure these guys get home to their families at the end of the day. But also just understanding, if there's a rescue crew being involved and coming into the situation, do they need to mask up? What are they getting involved in? Because you don't want to have, you have one, unfortunate person that's been succumbed to H2S. Well, you don't want more than one victim,
Right.
based on those that are coming to help them. So we're able to do a lot of that, and it's exciting. It's really taken off in the Permian.
Yeah, that is really exciting because thinking of, it's hard enough to find a location with a pin or a GPS, and not to mention if there was a rescue involved.
Yeah.
Just trying to figure out where you're going to, get to a job site. But then if there's an emergency, so to be able to get dialed in that quickly, it seems like it would be something that, obviously we need, there's a great need for that. And it's very widespread. Like you said, with the gas detection and with the Permian Basin, you don't know what's out there. And then not only is that going to save lives, that's going to open up the opportunity for us to explore what's going on, what needs to be repaired. Are there, leaks somewhere? Because a lot of these old wells, they're going to have issues, and then you might not even know that they need maintenance. So
that's the second part of it, that you leaning into the data part of it. The data it's second to none. Just by individuals wearing the devices out in the field, you're able to pull real-time data. You're able to look at, again, we talked about the GPS perspective and the real-time gas alerts. But also from a historical perspective, you can go and look at the maps and drill down on that well site and see, where's that gas coming from? Is there some sort of preventative measure we can take to make it a safer environment if those guys are constantly working there, right? So you have that based on the data. It's like safety glasses. They're not very good for your eyes if they're on your dash. And so you can look at the reporting. Are the guys using it? Are they wearing it? In the past, how do you know? You don't. So you can actually figure out, is it on? Is it in compliance? Is it bump tested? Is it calibrated? Just things that didn't exist in the past that make it safer for these guys to get their job done.
yeah, absolutely. So as Blackline has progressed over the years, it's obviously getting more popular, and people are recognizing that not only do we need more safety in preventative measures and detection, but that there's a way forward. Like as we're getting more innovative with Bluetooth and GPS and in the trucks. You can, where you can, find a vehicle, and now you can find your person. So how has that evolved over the years? Like knowing that it's tried and true and reliable. Like is it, something that has evolved over time? Because there's a lot to these monitors. Being able to detect if someone's fallen down or they're hurt or harmed in some way. Has that kind of been an evolving process?
Yeah, there's definitely been an evolution. Starting back from just, when Blackline was created, it was, again, the gas detection wasn't part of it. We always say connected by default because we were connected first from a GPS perspective. Gas detection was added later.
Okay.
And so, yeah, there's always been that evolution on what that looks like. G7, the quad gas G7, that was kind of the gas detector that we put into market first. And even since that came about, there's been, different features. It's software. So everything that happens is over the air. Old school devices, you have to dock them to get the gas readings off of this. It's all based on the cloud, right? So there's no docking necessary. We have docks, but everything's based in the cloud. So those gas readings are stored in the device. If you have connectivity at that time, they're delivered to the cloud. If there's an emergency, then there's alert, individuals on an alert profile that will get those notifications. So all that stuff, we're always adding more stuff. The G6, the single gas that came out, that's been out for just over a year now, gaining a lot of traction. A great entry-level device that's single gas. And from when it started, I think September of last year, 2022, to now, it's night and day. It was just a single gas detector before, but now you have those real-time alerts. You have an SOS button on it. Just so because of the ability to update devices over the air when it comes to software enhancements, You see that progression constantly. I mean, we have our EXO, our larger area monitor that, in the past, we were looking at kind of the hazmat vertical and how we can help those hazmat guys that are in those trucks that don't have much room, right? So they're on the way to a call, maybe the gas has changed. And so with the ability to change sensors on the fly, that was attractive. But then we started coming out here to the Permian and said, well, there's a fit for well sites. We're piloting on rigs right now. There's a fit there. There's a play right now. We're exploring different options to replace fixed gas on some well sites just because of the technology involved in them. Things coming out. There was just a press release that we're coming out with Alert Link, which will mean this thing goes off on a well site. If you're within a certain radius with your wearable device, it'll let you know what's happening here.
How far of the...
I know I'm supposed to know this. We just went through the training. I'd have to get back to you on that. But they're adjustable radiuses.
Okay, but I mean, it would be like a safe proximity.
Yeah, it's a safe proximity, of
to know
course.
to not get closer.
I mean, the other thing is, out of the box, it has a 100-day battery life, which most competitors have 3 to 5 days. So you can set it out there. But customers in the Permian that are currently using this are going solar on it. So 3 days of sunlight, the thing will run forever. You put it out there. But then there's bump and cal. Well, okay, so you have a great battery life, but then I have to bump and cal it. Bump every 30 days, cal every 180. Well, the next thing that's coming out is auto bump cal. There'll be a cradle on the side of it with a regulator.
Oh, wow, that is
and it'll
advanced.
auto bump and cal, so it's going to save you money in your gas and your personnel going out there to bump and cal these things. So the evolution is continuous. It's nonstop. There's things coming out all the time.
That's so exciting, and like when you say that about the technology, it shows like the steps that we've really taken in the oil and gas industry to be safer and to be more efficient. Like you said, that it's charging off of solar.
Yeah.
So, so then there's that element as well. And it can literally just be sitting out on location, not only being useful in gas detection and saving lives, but it's also resourceful because it can be charged on solar.
Yep, and then you have the whole part of it that everything's remote, so you can have this thing sitting on a well site in the Permian, and you can be in Alaska, on vacation, watching the whales in the ocean, and you're on your laptop and you're looking at your real-time gas readings, and I need to turn on the pump over there. Well, you can do it remotely.
Wow,
it's crazy. So
that is, and there's just with that alone, the distance that you can be from it, like that's going to keep you safer.
Absolutely.
Also. Now, just for understanding a little bit more about the 4 gases that it detects, and to kind of give a little bit of education and understanding, what are our main 4 gases that?
Yeah, so the standard configuration that I see in the Permian on a daily basis is going to be your O2, your CO, your H2S, and your LEL. Now we use there's 2 LEL. There's LEL IR, LEL MPS. IR is kind of the older technology, infrared. On your LEL sensor, that with supply chain issues and such, with whether they were manufactured in certain parts of the world, that there's some turmoil. It caused some problems not only for Blackline, but for other manufacturers out there. Pretty much everybody was using that sensor. So we have a LEL MPS sensor, which is great as well. There's some advantages to that. It will not say it on the device itself, but you can actually go into the reporting and you can look at, did I pick up methane, for example? There's 6 gas classifications, and it can break things down.
So it
like
can
that.
go further.
It can go a little
These
bit
are
further
the
with
main
that technology.
4.
But yeah, so the main 4 would be your LEL, H2S, CO, O2. But you can add a 5th gas on. You can, the beautiful thing is, so say I have this right here. There's 2 screws on the side of it. Every monitor from here down is the same, right? Take the 2 screws, and this is a quad gas with a pump on it. Say I only need single gas, or say my O2 goes out. In the past, you send it in for 2 weeks for repair, right? Guy's out, no monitor, maybe not safe. Well, instead, take these 2 screws out, pump on a new cartridge, turn it on, and go back to work. That's all it is.
That's great.
So just the flexibility in that is, it's turning heads and really helping.
Well, it seems like it's very mindful of what the oil and gas industry is, because you don't have that kind of time.
Productivity.
Yeah,
Yes.
the productivity, like you don't want to be having to go replace your monitor, go back to town and get another one, or even in investing in having more. And the idea of it is to keep you safer and more efficient.
Yeah.
And so it's very innovative and tailor made for the Permian Basin, for the oil and gas industry.
Yeah.
So, and would you say that, like, when because we met at the oil and gas show, and you talked to a lot of existing customers and potential customers, And it caught my eye because I used to work in the field, and I was always responsible for making sure it was calibrated and charged and the things, and and so I know how important it is to have it on location. It's required to be on location, but I mean, you can get away with being like fairly basic on a lot of job sites, just meeting the demands. But would you say that more companies are wanting to invest in and learn about different ways to become safer, and are more open to learning about new technologies? Because a lot of people in oil and gas can be kind of stuck in their ways and just wanting to cowboy it and just do it the way it's always been done.
Yep.
And can be a little resisting to new technology. But this seems like it would be an easier sell.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be change management no matter what you do. But in the Permian, more than anywhere else, I mean, one of the things I love about being in the Permian, when I was selling in healthcare, in government sectors and things like that, all great, very, smart individuals, and I really enjoyed my time there, learned a ton. But coming to the Permian, just the folks, from the folks turning the wrench in the field to the folks in the office, those HSEs, or there's directors, or there's CFOs, or whatever the case is, everybody has the same goal: safety. Get your people home safe. The number one asset is their folks, and they realize that. And so protecting those folks, protecting that asset is paramount, no matter where I go. And so, yeah, I mean, you're seeing this evolution of companies just coming about and saying, we've had this for so long, to your point. This is what we know of. It's no dig on that. I mean, there's still always going to be a place for that, right?
Sure.
All other monitors, there's a place, but there's this need for data. There's this need for connectivity. And you brought up, one of the first points you brought up was the working alone. Lone worker in the Permian is huge. It's huge out here. I mean, just geographically, it's massive. And so having workers close together is just not a possibility most of the time.
Right.
So having those guys connected, understanding where they're at. When I started doing this with Blackline about 3 years ago, it was a little bit more difficult of I guess, initiating a conversation. But now they're coming to us. They're coming to us and saying, hey, so-and-so's using this. We saw this. We want this. Or we're going to be on their site. We want to use what they're using. And so that's kind of how it's evolved for me personally in the Permian. It's caught wind, and it's a frenzy right now. It's exciting time. It's fun, having a blast.
That is exciting. Now, when you have something like this on location, what is the benefit to having all three, or does it depend on the environment that you're in and the radius? Could this be considered like a location monitor, like for everyone that's within a certain proximity, or is it necessary to have the individual monitor for it to function?
So the individual monitor, I mean, I guess, everybody is, for lack of better term, probably required to have, a gas monitor.
Something on. You do have to wear a personal
on
monitor.
There, per OSHA standards, they have to something on them to detect dangerous, hazardous gas, right? So that's a requirement. This is meant to be left on site. These guys wearing this aren't necessarily on the site all the time. So maybe it's a well site, maybe it's an SWD, right? And so they want to monitor around the clock what's going on. They want to constantly be pulling data. If it's the 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday morning, and that's IDLH going on at that site, maybe that's 200 ppm H2S, they want to know about it. Especially if it's in a residential area and there might be a wind direction that's going to affect where that plume of gas is going. So this is meant to be kind of left out there. And you can, again, look at those readings from anywhere. You can look at them from your phone if you wanted to, remotely. This is, again, every day out there in the field, the workers. But with that alert link coming out, again, if you have this set up and then you have these on your workers, and then they're going to tie together. And if this is going off in the far corner of a well site and you step within that radius and this thing's an alarm, it's going to let you know that, hey, this is what you're walking into, right?
Right.
And so you don't have to walk to the monitor and look at the screen and figure out, oh, well, I need to run. Right?
Right.
It's too late at that point. So,
Absolutely.
So yeah, no, left there, remote monitoring.
Okay.
This is your personal every day.
So they all work together.
Yes.
They all tie in, because even like if this is monitoring around the clock and you have workers going out at 7 a.m. and there's an alert, they can They would know before getting to the field.
Absolutely. If this tips over, if there's a low battery, if there's a sensor failure, they're going to get an alert. I mean, if they have it set up in the system to alert them in that way, they'll have an alert within seconds on their smartwatch or on their phone, letting them know that that site has an issue with that sensor. And so then they can call somebody to go out there and take a look at it. You just know ahead of time. It sets you up to prepare yourself for kind of what you're walking into.
Yeah,
Another
absolutely.
thing too that, I mean, it's kind of cool. So not the pumped, one with the pump on it, but just the standard 4-gas diffusion head on that. If you take off these 4 screws, it's actually the same sensor that's on the wearable. You can actually take it out of here and put it on there, interchange them, to be honest with you.
Wow.
Yeah, as long as it's that 4-gas configuration.
Okay.
Again, and then when you're in Blackline Live in the portal and you look at your entire fleet on a map, they all show up together, and you can all manage that fleet all in one nice location.
Well, and to be able to see it all, like you said, remotely and look at the data, and you can, maybe detect patterns or, see where something's faulty or, an area maybe that's been neglected, because especially in the Permian Basin, I mean, we've been doing, work out here for so many decades that you don't know what somebody else has done or not done. It's not everything is documented because there's too many foreign lines. There's abandoned wells and things, and so like you don't necessarily know your geographic location to its entirety. You really mostly like we know what we're doing out here, and everything's monitored and the data, but we're coming into the age of innovation and data, and so then we're kind of having to go back in time and make sure everything is accounted for. And and I have been on more than one location where we've gotten too close to a line, or there's been some scares where we've had to go to our muster point or make sure we're all traveling upwind, and it can be very chaotic, and people will panic and not really be necessarily using all of their resources to get to where they need to be.
Yeah.
And so it's been paramount, especially in recent years, that we know where the muster point is, we know our coordinates if we need help, but that's still very, very basic. And I mean, you may know there's a problem, but again, like you said, nobody outside of that location knows there's a problem.
For the longest time, ignorance is bliss, right?
Ignorance can be bliss.
That's kind of how we've been operating for such a long time. And
Absolutely.
It's not right, wrong, or indifferent. It's just what we knew before this technology evolved. And so, you mentioned muster points. It's really cool. You can actually text the device. You have voice in these things. You can use them as two-way radios. There's push to talk on them. You could send a text on them and say, hey, everybody, evacuate the muster point A. Over the summertime, I posted on LinkedIn, I was playing with the device, and when it was really hot in the Permian, which, I mean, that's a ridiculous statement because it's always hot in the Permian in the summertime.
Yeah.
But, I just, to have fun with it, I text devices, and it says hydrate. Just a reminder, hydrate. Weather's coming, lightning in the area, things like that. So, options are endless. And just when you think it's really cool, there's more coming out.
Well, that's what it seems like you said. It's a continuous evolution because where we are with technology in general. I mean, it seems like I remember when we first all started having flip phones, and we just called basically, and nobody thought that text messaging would last. Who's going to text when they can call? Now we've gotten to a point where who wants to call when you can text?
Speaking my daughter's language. Like, why do you have a phone? It's meant to call people. Dad, I don't call people, I text.
Well, and then I mean, and
I guess
that
you don't
just,
need a phone.
Yeah, but I mean, then it goes even further. And then some people text, and they, there's all the acronyms, and I can't keep up with all of that, the shortened versions of everything.
The beepers, the pagers, and you turn them upside down, and you type in the letters, and it means. And
it was like, oh look, you can make a different word. Like, I mean, it was simpler
we've
times.
Come a long way, haven't we?
We've certainly have, and not really in that long. It hasn't been that long. And then with going to smartphones and the technology and, like social media and the way we can all connect and get a message out in a matter of seconds. And you can connect to so many people, or, like with GPS, like that was a major game changer. I remember the Garmin, you put it in your windshield, and it was amazing that you had this digital map that you could buy a device to put it in your vehicle. And then vehicles started, coming with GPS. And then you have it on your phone. Like, You don't even have to think about it. It's like if you don't know where you're going or you're going to, a restaurant or, location you've not been to, you just go to Google and you can, it's so efficient where you can just click on the address and then, that's showing you where you're going. It's even showing you that there's road construction.
Oh, yeah.
How quickly you can get that data or if there's been an accident. And so to be able to detect that, like you're not only, going to save time and be more efficient if you need to find a different road, but it's saving people.
Absolutely.
And so it's a double-edged sword because, we can really abuse our technology and our innovations and overuse them. And so a lot of it is about responsible usage as well. And to be able to see it as, as a tool and not because it's, stay off your phones while you're driving. You're trying to, beat that into everyone's, brains. And you see billboards all the time, don't text and drive. And people are going to, they're so, there's that natural response to look at your phone. And so you really have to, use your best judgment and know that, you could be on your phone all day long and never come off of it, but, to be productive and also use it to your advantage. There's no limit to where we are at this point.
True. But on the flip side of that, one of the biggest barriers I have out here is that big brother aspect and users saying, well, there's too much technology. I don't want to be tracked.
Well, I could see that because there's quite a bit of tracking and it can be seen as an invasion of privacy.
There is. But their trucks are tracked normally, right?
Yeah, that's almost mandatory now.
So that's just about mandatory. The other part is, everything's so configurable. You just go into the portal and you change your configurations on the fly, and then when you hit save, it affects over the air the devices that you want to affect. For example, if you don't want to do, they have a check-in timer on them. You can put a check-in timer in certain increments. If you don't want to do a check-in timer, turn it off. There's fall detection on these things. If you just have a very sensitive, setting on it, you drop it right there, it'll detect a fall. A tornado up in the Panhandle, that really helped a guy out because tornado coming over the horizon, he jumped into a Connex to get away from the tornado. It flipped it around, detected a fall, and fortunately we were able to find him and help him out. But again, customizable, right? If I go jump off a bed of a truck, I probably didn't mean to do that.
Right.
My sensitivity needs to be a little bit different than a 21-year-old screwing around.
Sure.
So everything's customizable. So when there's that perception of big brother, too much technology, too much oversight, every organization has the ability to make those decisions that are relevant to them.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great because I know that, anytime I get a new iPhone or a new iPhone update, you've got to make sure that you understand what's been updated or
Yes.
what's new, like turning your location off or you're sharing your location or.
Well, they bump the phones now. Have you seen that one? You haven't turned it off?
No.
The latest update. So it's already on there. So if somebody goes, if your phone's sitting right here, Breezy, and I put my phone next to yours and you had it on, it's on by default if you haven't turned it off. But I put my phone next to yours, automatically it'll give me your contact information on my phone.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's scary.
After this segment, I'll tell you how to turn it off.
Okay. Yeah. Give me a little crash course on that
there you
because
go.
I certainly don't want to be just,
Nope.
making the
Scary.
mistake that is scary.
Yeah.
Well, again, it's like you have to, our technology and innovations are fantastic. What we're capable of doing, but to be responsible and to understand the dangers of it, because there's always going to be someone with, seeing it from a different perspective.
Yes.
It's like seeing there being opportunity and stealing information
Yeah.
or, getting your contacts or things like that and not being aware that that is what's going on or that that's even possible. So it's a challenging time in a way to stay current on technology and innovations and protect yourself and be safe as an individual as far as, knowing what's going on, knowing what does.
Absolutely.
And then I'm sure there's workers that would not want to be tracked to any degree because that may reveal things that they would rather not share.
Yeah.
That could be a possibility.
Yeah, I can see that.
But I would think that, the safety outweighs in any of those grievances because, working in the field, you're 60, 70 miles from civilization. You need to be safe. You need people to know where you are.
It's a tool to help you get home safely. That's what it is. End of the day, bar none, that's what it is. It's not to track how long you're taking a lunch or how often you're taking a nap in your truck.
Right.
We all know that happens anyway. That's not what it's for. Take your nap. it's a safety device. It's here to save your life.
Right.
And it should be treated and looked at it as such, right? I mean, I mean, you made the point. There's a ton of data that comes off these things, but we're very protective of the data. There's no IT involvement with our stuff. I mean, some competitors have like mesh networks that are required to be set up, and there's nothing. Out of the box, you turn it on, and it connects to the tower, and it's good to go. It's set up with the cloud, and so there's nothing involved in that. And we work with a lot of different customers, from government sector to oil and gas to energy to education to emergency response things. It's all over the board. Water. I mean, it's all over the place, all over the globe. So the data's safe. It's secure. We make that a huge point of what we do.
Well, you guys stay pretty busy out here in the Permian Basin. Are
Yes.
there other locations that are just as sensitive to these kinds of gases? Is it all oil and gas regions, or do you?
So yeah, I mean, I'm Permian, so I live in Lubbock, and I'm responsible for pretty much El Paso up to the Panhandle, and pretty much all of West Texas. I also have all of the state of New Mexico. I have counterparts in Houston as well. We have an office down there. Our headquarters is in Calgary. But I mean, yeah, oil and gas all over the globe. We're involved in that. But we also have, I guess, different sources of energy. There's solar, there's wind farms. There's some labs I'd like to try and explore. In Albuquerque, there's Sandia National Laboratories. There's lone workers working there with toxic gas. How can we help those guys? We've talked about the fire departments and the police departments and things like that. So it's all over the board. I mean, a transport, the transport companies, whether it be FedEx, Amazon, UPS, those are companies that can really utilize the technology. Food, there's food manufacturers at those big rendering plants, and there's lone workers in there. So anywhere there's a lone worker, I mentioned earlier, meter reader, there's actually a story about a meter reader. I think she was out in California, and she was doing her job, going and reading, meters, right? She luckily had a Blackline device on her with an SOS latch that was active, and a gentleman came out of the house making threats with his dogs to get off the property. And so she, removed herself from the situation and pulled the SOS latch. You have a setting to where you can have it silent or it can make noise, audible noise. She had, I believe hers was on silent. She pulled that latch. Our SOC was monitoring her, dispatched authorities, and she was able to get out of the situation safely because, of her Blackline device. So, it's all over the place. The industries are endless.
Right.
I'm heavy oil and gas because of my geography. And I wouldn't change it for the world.
Right.
I love oil and gas, but no, we're all over the place.
That is great, and to not even realize that if someone in her position, might be put in that kind of situation, and to have that kind of support so easily available.
Oh yeah.
Because there's so many situations you could find yourself in, as a female, especially like if you're alone, or there's someone that's aggressive or threatening. To be able to quietly make contact with someone that's going to be able to make contact with local authorities or whoever's closest in your proximity to dispatch, like that's a no-brainer. That's something that it seems like everyone can benefit from.
I worked with a woman in New Mexico, in the middle of nowhere, and she had called about our technology, and the conversation I had with her is she was leading excursions horseback, right, in remote areas.
Okay.
So we have a satellite option, and so you'll never lose connectivity because there's iridium satellites in the sky, and it's connected based on that. But above and beyond that, I said there's voice capability unless it's satellite. And satellite, you lose the voice, but you still have the text. But there's that SOS latch that you can pull, and she brought up, and I've used it in conversations in oil and gas now, that rattlesnake bite.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing out there. Show me a gas detector that will help you with a rattlesnake bite. And it's a real thing, right? Especially, springtime, early summer in the Permian. You pull that latch, get by a rattlesnake, they're going to know immediate your GPS coordinates. If you have a voice plan on there, they're going to call you and see if you're okay. And they're going to go through this entire protocol that you have set up in the system of how to respond to your emergency. It sounds kind of funny, but it's real. And those are the kind of customers that are outside of oil and gas that are approaching us for some
you
of this.
might not think about,
No,
but
not at all.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And for me, because I do have my oil and gas background of being in the field, if something happened to someone, we would have to run into the office to get the JSA with the coordinates off of it to be able to even tell anybody where we are. And you're losing that valuable time, especially if it's something like a rattlesnake bite. There's certainly been snakes on location. I mean, they're absolutely, under pallets, inside the pipe. Like, we're always warning each other, like, watch out.
Watch where you put your hands.
Yeah, watch where you put your hands, like, pay attention. But what happens if they get you? I mean, something can happen easily.
Everybody freaks out. Takes pictures.
And everybody just panics. And I mean, you can't lose that time if you're dealing with a time sensitive situation.
Absolutely.
And so this just takes out all of that wasted time, wasted space. Yeah. And you can, get people, like you said, home safely and, like whatever help they need, and to be able to react so quickly to it. And so it's beyond the gas monitoring, which is huge, and we need that. But like you said, lone workers and just those situations that could be potentially dangerous, hazardous, and where you need some outside assistance in some way.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's I've been blessed over the past 2 years now in the Permian with some of the organizations that come on with Blackline and partner with us. It's been absolute blessing, but I'm really excited to see what's next. I mean, there's so many targets out there. I mean, there's in the waste management world. I mean, there's toxic gas when they're compiling that waste, wastewater. There's all kinds of things out there.
Yeah.
I haven't even explored. You're driving from Hobbs out to Carlsbad and potash mines. All those potash mines out there, Mosaic and all those different companies. I mean, mining for silica, things like that. I mean, what can we do with those guys?
Absolutely.
I mean, they're all lone workers, right? So I'm excited to see what's next.
Yeah, that is really exciting. Well, I'm excited for you. I'm excited for you guys at Blackline. I appreciate you coming on the show today and telling us all about it. And really appreciate the conversation, the education, especially, like I said, with my background, I can see the evolution, and it's a little funny to me now when I think about where we were.
Canary in a coal mine.
Yeah.
It's a little bit bigger than a bird cage.
Yeah, but it's still, it's compact. It runs on solar. I mean, there's so many things about it, and just leave it on location. You know what you're going to be driving up to, and I think that just that alone, it makes a huge difference, and the safety of the workers, especially in the Permian Basin. So,
absolutely.
Thank you again for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.